you so much.
Great. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk about the project that is funded by the New York State Department of State, along with my colleague John Coluccio from the city of Schenectady. So several cities came together to swap stories about how problem property owners were causing problems across the capital region. Those stories grew into grant applications and have since been awarded through the Local Government Efficiency Fund and the Municipal Restructuring Fund to build a platform by which to share data around code enforcement. And I'll get into a lot of what we've been doing over the past couple of years. But they partnered with the Center for Technology and Government. And for those who don't know CTG, a research institute at Albany, we work with governments to build capability, an action research center for the past 25 years, working with over 350 state and local governments. And because we're part of SUNY, we're able to do that quite easily, integrating students from computer science, information science, public administration, so they get experiential learning. And so this partnership with the Department of State and the cities has worked very well over the past couple of years. So the Community Officials Data Exchange, that's not the name we came up with in the beginning, but it's the one that we settled on. It's really to do a couple of things, actually 3 things. One, to provide a platform to share data so that there can be searching and linking of actors. And when I say actors, I don't mean just owners. I mean owners, agents, landlords, and in the future, potentially contractors, people associated with properties that have had any blight. It is a way to do analytics. So if I want to do analytics on data within my own jurisdiction, or to do analytics with data across jurisdictions of those who are a member of the exchange. But it's also a place for resources. How is code enforcement carried out in other municipalities? Is there a place to go find that information? And how do we create a community of people all looking at what are the fees and fines associated with vacant properties and how do they differ across New York State? So the group of people that came together, John is going to speak to some of that, are code enforcement officials, fire administrators from the cities who've been working on this behind the scenes to do data standardization, to look at administrative processes, and do all the hard work behind the scenes on what it takes to build an exchange. So we know that blighted properties cost a lot of money. One of the biggest areas that we're trying to tackle in this project is not everything about blight, but it's looking at the information challenge. If you take the data that's embedded within each of the cities, there's no way to bring that all together. There has been efforts to use data visualization tools in order for you to make decisions, but we were looking at really sharing data across municipalities. And these are some of the challenges that we ran into, as you do in any programmatic area of government. The data was not in a standard format. It was half paper, half electronic. It's not searchable or visual. And there was little to no sharing among jurisdictions other than in an ad hoc way. One of the best quotes from the beginning of this project was from one of the mayors who said, I have to come to a face-to-face meeting with my list of problem property owners to sit with another mayor and say, are they the same in your community? There must be a way for me to search and understand if this person still has code violations in other jurisdictions. So the 2 main goals of the project. The first one is to build the capability of the municipalities to collect, store, manage, and use data. An exchange is only as good as the data that's in it. And this takes a long time. This is hard work. Right, John?
Without a doubt.
So building that capability within the municipalities, and then along the way, working to build that platform to share. And so we've spent a tremendous amount of time in both of these areas. One of the first things we did was we wanted to identify city functions that the cities carried out to either to prevent, mitigate, or resolve the blighted properties. And these programs were the ones identified. And so in the descriptions, if you imagine, we're not going to show it all here today, we did business process mapping of the current and ideal of each program, and then identified the data, the common data elements and the elements that they would want to share. So this is just a little peek into some of the standardizing that we've done. And I say standardizing loosely because it is very hard to have everyone use exactly the same definitions. But we were able to come up with code violation and complaint categories and permit categories, and these are built into the exchange. So even when municipalities are using different types of proprietary software, their data is mapped to categories, so you know when you're doing analysis that you are looking at the same thing across municipalities. So I'm going to have John talk to you a little bit about the exchange itself.
Right, so the Community Officials Data Exchange, it's a secure web-based application that can be accessed by any computer at all, right? And it's not just, as Megan said, it's not just for people that have one type of code enforcement software, but it has the ability to import data from different types. It's a tool in our arsenal to help us address the problem that municipalities have in locating information on property owners. On the surface, you wouldn't think that anyone would have any kind of trouble accessing that kind of data today in this data-centric world. But the truth is that some problem owners and landlords can be very elusive to find. This program shares live data across municipalities and allows us to evaluate and compare information in a more concise manner. We're able to search for and by properties, owners, and even LLCs. Municipalities can review the data and make connections across borders and share them with other users. We'll be able to do analytics, which will enable us to look at trends in our own city as well as across different cities that are part of this platform. And we'll also be able to have a resource area, as you see on the right, where we'll have information and best practices to share across regions. Megan mentioned definitions as one of them as well. You know, that's some place where we can have some standard definitions to make sure that different code enforcement communities are using the same type of information. So our main goal is to identify problem owners and landlords using the most accurate and up-to-date information. Then we can link this information and reduce the redundant work that's performed tracking these people, using it to improve code enforcement and therefore compliance. The more jurisdictions that become a part of this platform will increase the likeliness of finding patterns of neglect by owners and easing the burden of research that we all have to do. So currently, we have real property information data with tax payment history in this platform, building permits and code violation histories, information on vacant properties, as well as New York State LLC information harvested from the New York State Division of Corporations. Soon we'll be looking at other LLC data for other states in the country, as well as integration of police and fire data to better understand the relationships between urban blight and public safety calls and responses that yearly cost us large amounts of money. In this example, we performed a search on Eagle 11 across a sample of municipalities. As you can see, we had results with 16 contacts with this name and 19 LLCs that either had Eagle either in the name or the address of the company. From here, we can drill down into the properties that are tied to this name and start to put together a better picture of this firm and what municipalities and in what municipalities they own properties, which with only a few keystrokes. Drilling down even deeper can give us information on code violations of the properties and show any patterns that emerge. This would have taken a great deal of time and effort to gather this information in the past, and now it's pretty much effortless. We're also going to be able to have visualizations that can be displayed and show overviews of different types of permits and code violations within a city alone or within multiple cities that the user chooses to compare. To better communicate best practices and standardization of data, we'll have this resource center, which Meghan mentioned before, where we can upload information to share across other users of the system and keep everybody informed of what we're doing.
So, as I said, some of the challenges, this is not just a visualization tool that pulls data from other data sets. We spend a lot of time looking at the quality and integrity of the data that's coming into this. So that's been a lot of the work so far. And it's the ability to collect, manage, and use data within each of the municipalities. What makes this a little bit different than what we've seen out there so far is that this is completely governed by local governments. This is not a relationship you have with a private company. This is governed by the Community Officials Data Exchange Board, which has representation from the original cities. 2 cities are not named on there, but they'll be coming on board as part of the larger pilot. And then created under Article 5G as a shared service in New York State law. So in that committee, there's a data and technology subcommittee that looks at technology upgrades, that looks at the data and makes those decisions. You've heard us talk a little bit about it is and it will be. We're still in the phase that it has not gone statewide. And so the goal is that it will be statewide, and there are some people who have looked at this prototype, it was a prototype, now it's a pilot, as potentially US-wide. And I'll tell you why. Through a rigorous process of requirements gathering and selection by the cities, they have chosen General Code to be the vendor that created the platform. General Code is now a subsidiary of the International Code Council. And so the International Code Council has looked at this and said, problem property owners just don't all live in one state, they live across everywhere. And so therefore, if there is a way to search and link, we would like to think about this on a larger scale, but obviously see that it works in New York first. And as I said, we're really working on data completeness and quality. One of the guidelines to be a member of the exchange is your data has to be reviewed first, just not taking the data. And we've spent a lot of time, I think I'm allowed to say how much work we've put into the City of Schenectady's data and really getting it to a place where it's shareable actually with all the cities. And so we're doing a lot of focusing in that area. As I said, for 2019, what is coming? The code functions completed. As we only showed you one piece of analytics. Of course, there'll be others. Added data sets, the larger pilot, adding more cities to that testing, statewide deployment, and systematic governance. So the governance model has been created, the group has met, they have to get to a place where it's systematic in running of the exchange. That is it. Thank you.